Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're here at Page One Power in Boise, Idaho, getting started today for another edition of Link Building Live. This is a demonstration webinar. We're going to walk you through some of the processes that we do to build links every day of the year, and that's what we do. We build links. So we're going to show you how we do it, and that's the group that you're going to be hearing from today. So let's do some introductions first and foremost. Broadcasting live from Boise, Idaho. That's the view right outside our back door. But today we got the first snowfall of the year, of the season. So welcome winter. And that's myself. I'm your host today. I'm the event coordinator at Page One Power. You know this guy, Colin Eggleston, the director of training.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Colin.
Great to be here.
And also in the house is Kyle Ochsner. He's an SEO specialist. He's got some expertise in resource link building. Welcome, Kyle.
Hey, glad to be here.
And patching in from Pullman, Washington is our content marketing manager, Corey Collins. Welcome, Corey.
Thanks, Mike. Glad to be here.
So today we're going to be looking at two websites that we have selected. We took a look at these yesterday briefly and reviewed them. These are not customer or client websites. They are good examples that compare to some other client work that we've done in the past, and so that's why we chose them. And they fit with what we're talking about. And so first off, we're going to walk through those websites one at a time, and just to give you an idea of how we evaluate a client's websites and the resources, assets, opportunities. Then we're going to shift gears, and we're going to do a search and research for websites that are going to offer us opportunities for link placement via link prospecting. Then finally, we're going to talk about how we go about outreaching to those sites and asking for the link. So without further ado, we're going to jump to the first website, and I'm going to hand over the controls to Kyle, and he's going to drive for us. So we're going to be looking at the Davenport Hotel in Spokane, Washington. Let's go back, and here it is. Take it away, Kyle.
Okay, so this is obviously kind of a historic hotel in Spokane, Washington, and so when you have these bigger hotels and stuff, you kind of want to look at what's like unique about them, what makes them special. Just because in my experience with any sort of like research, as we call it, link building, where you're not necessarily providing content, but you're just trying to provide like resources and like things similar to that to like people that might need them or want them or might find it useful, whatever the reason, it helps to try to find stuff on the sites that's unique, whether like this specific hotel has been around a long time. It's a huge place for weddings. That's one of the first places I go. Like I have a lot of experience with working for other hotels around the country, and weddings is a big one. It's something a lot of people use the internet to find resources, price things out, get reviews and stuff like that. You have meetings is another big one. So you might check out the meeting page to see how big their halls are. Usually there's like a floor plan PDF you can check out, so you can get kind of an idea like how big of the events they are going to do here, pricing, stuff like that. What would be their kind of quote unquote like lane within the meeting world, and then like even things like history. Like you can come over here, and obviously this hotel is an older hotel, has a lot of history, so you could use this if you found things about historic Spokane, articles about this hotel throughout the years and stuff like that. That would be kind of like personally what I would do. But the grand scheme of thing is it is a hotel, so their main goal is to get people to book their rooms. They're not going to have like a ton of tools and things like that, which we'll get into with our next example when a client has a tool that you can go and pitch out. So personally, what I would kind of do next would be look for anyone that's mentioning our brand of the hotel or whatever client you're working on if you think that would be something that's happening. Now, I preface that by saying not everyone's going to have their brand mentioned a ton on the internet. But one thing I've learned working with a bunch of different hotels is that a lot of hotels are talked about through weddings, events, and stuff like that. So what I would usually do in my next step after kind of looking at their site, seeing make sure they do weddings, make sure they do meetings and stuff like that before you seek that niche. But generally my very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to Google, and just in quotes, I'm going to Google Davenport Hotel, and which, that's a lot of results. So, and obviously not all of it's going to be super helpful. So what I do is I hop over to the news tab. News tab is good because it's generally news results, things like that, kind of what it does, what it says it is. And then I like to use the search tools to, you can sort by relevance, but I prefer to do by date. It might not put the most relevant stuff up first, but you're going to have the newer stuff. So obviously you can see right here, as they're mentioned on the Spokane review a few times. So if I'm going to outreach them, I want to outreach the newer articles talking about the hotel, because it's just, in my experience, I've had a higher success rate the newer the article is. That's not to say you can't go get a link on an article that's a couple years old, and sometimes they have a lot of page authority and domain authority just from being up on the internet so long. So I definitely go after both, but I would say I have a better luck the newer and the fresher an article is. So let's just hop over to this article right here.
And just to kind of jump in, so to kind of understand when I'm researching my client, a hotel client, doing research link building, I want to find out kind of what they have to offer on the website, and then how they fit into the community contextually, how they kind of work within that environment. And then for this search, we're looking for mentions of this hotel. And I think one important thing to kind of look at here is that we're looking for mentions in articles that don't link back to us already. Is that unlinked mention portion of it is kind of what we're digging through in these search. So, and the news is that's a really great one to kind of filter by the news instead of just the general results. Yeah. I think that seems really powerful to me.
And generally my workflow would be with a project, especially the longer it goes on, is probably start with the news and check the news once a week or so, see if anything new comes up, but then start digging through the broader, more general thing, because there might be, vendor listings and stuff like that wouldn't show in the news thing, that might be listing anything from being unlinked, linking to a wrong site, or maybe you're just not mentioned but not included or something similar to that. But I always start with the news feed first.
Would you even would you even look for maybe a mention of a competitor and maybe try to get, see if we can be mentioned as well, kind of have us dovetail in with that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the page. Most likely that would be looking for, vendor lists. If you're looking for Spokane wedding venue lists and you're not on it, that'd definitely be that. And you could probably do that through just old-fashioned, what we call keyword research. We're plugging in keywords like Spokane in wedding venue, or you could do it through backlinking. You really just have to fill that process out. I'll have one client where backlinking's the most fruitful thing in the world, and you don't have to do anything else but look at what their competitors are doing and go after that, and then you can pivot to the keyword research. Then I'll have other clients where you can backlink till you're blue in the face and you're not going to find anything because it's just not there, and so it's kind of on you to look for, forge your own path, I guess.
And just to clarify, when you say backlinking, you mean going to a backlink explorer like OpenSite Explorer or Ahrefs or Majestic and plugging in a competitor or a search competitor or something of that nature and looking at their link profile.
Yeah, it's sorry, just kind of using the slang we use within the office, but it would be using a backlinking tool, any of the ones you mentioned, to look at who's linking to your competitors, specifically competitors that are outranking you, because they're usually outranking you for a reason. It could be an on-site reason. It could be backlinks. It could be a multitude of reasons, but usually, if you feel like your site's on point already, it's generally a backlinking thing at that, especially if you're on, it's your backlink portfolio comparisons at that point. That's not 100% fast and true rule, but I feel like it is true more than it isn't most of the time.
Yeah. Well, Google said over and over that they have, 200 ranking factors, but when you really drill down to what's the most relevant, what are the most powerful ranking factors, it really comes back to links and content, what's on the page. And so if you have a relevant result, something you think, a page, a piece of content, whatever it is, that really deserves to rank, but you're not ranking, it almost always drills down to links.
Yeah, and so this kind of tool that we're doing, or not tool, strategy we're using, employing right now is more of the opportunities are there, they're just missed, so you might as well go after them and try to make sure you convert at the highest rate you can. Like you can see on this page, there's a lot on the Spokesman Review, which I believe is the main newspaper for the city of Spokane. So it's that's you're living in a local world if you're a local hotel, and these will go a long ways in helping you rank through authority, keywords, and just general good PR for your company too, to be listed by the big newspaper in the town over and over.
Just kind of thinking about that, how this, searching for unlinked mentions and then reaching out to especially news sources is kind of an interesting intersection between link building proper and PR for your business and for your brand, where it's really this is in a lot of ways that you could be in the PR department and be doing a very similar task, which is kind of an interesting intersection there.
And just sorry to interrupt. Just I'm thinking about when you're outreaching to these news outlets, and Kyle mentioned, going after the newest first. The author of that article, they're going to have that article fresh in their mind. They're going to probably be checking social engagement on that article. So if they get feedback, which any writer loves feedback, they're going to be excited to engage on that feedback, whether it be technical or in this regard to SEO issue.
Yeah, exactly. And in my experience, people are usually more than happy to add a link. One, it's very similar to citing your source if you were doing an academic paper. But two, it also makes it if someone wants to know the location of the Davenport because they're from out of town and they want to know to go to where this meeting, if it's not listed in the article, they can just click on the link and go see, it's on whatever street it's on, which is helpful, especially in the day and age of mobile browsing. It's a lot easier just to click on a link than it is to type it out. I mean, it's not it's the hardest thing in the world, but it definitely makes lives easier.
Well, show us that article that you pulled up.
Oh, yeah. So this one is on a federal hearing, salmons and dams, which actually involves Boise a little bit too, and mentions even a local hotel, but they're having another meeting. So, just Control F, Davenport, look for the hotel mention. So there's only one mention of Davenport on this. It's right here. It's not linked, so that's a perfect opportunity for you right there. Some of the pushback you can get on something like this is our main goal is to not bring attention to the hotel, it's to bring attention to the meeting. That's fine. What I would always do in that situation is just thank them for responding to me, and then you can look for different articles on the site that might involve your brand or anything like that. But overall, yeah, just kind of looking for unlinked mentions. And then this is where it kind of comes down to a very technical aspect. If you're a smaller company, or not even necessarily a smaller company, if you're just working for your company, you're not balancing multiple projects, I would probably throw, these mentions into a spreadsheet of some sort to keep track of them, know which ones I need to outreach, know which ones I've outreached, when I did it. As you get bigger and where we actually have multiple clients, you definitely need kind of like a project management software. We personally use a software called BuzzStream, which is very helpful because you can just pop open a Google add-on and it'll import the data into an online project management software essentially. But like let's say I'm gonna like outreach this person right here right now because I like it and I want to. It's really easy to figure this out. When reaching out to news sources, I either look for the writer's email or the main editor of the section, or maybe even just the editor of the newspaper in general, because they can at least get you pointed in the right direction. This one's super easy because their email's right there. So yeah, you could just go ahead and like, throw this into a spreadsheet or however you want to manage it. With this is the link, this is the email, and then I personally like to find a group of sites first and then outreach them all at once. I know there's people that we work with that like to find it and outreach right then and there because it's fresh in your head. That's all just a preference thing. But if you're new to this, I would just try both. Maybe try doing it one at a time, and then the next day switch over to like finding 20 sites and then outreaching all those at once, moving down the line per se, and just going that way and just figure out what works best for you. I mean that's like the important thing once you kind of get further into a link building project is staying organized and figuring out what works best for you to stay organized. Because what we're going to, do is like, okay, I'm going to send out this initial email asking if they would link this unlinked mention. Well, in a perfect world, you'd hear back from them, in an hour or within the week. But we don't live in a perfect world, and then we live in a world of spam where these people probably get 1 million emails a day and they don't know what is up and down. So you want to keep track of when you email them. So, the next week you can just send them another quick email being like, hey, did you get that thing I sent you? That's one of the most important things I've found in being like a successful link builder is just being persistent but not pushy. We like to follow up, 2 to 3 times after the initial email, about once a week. Not any thing to like really like drive anyone crazy, but to let them know that you're human and you're not just like blasting all these emails out into the ether hoping something sticks, because like that's never going to work. I mean, it might work for someone, but it's definitely not going to be a best practice.
I would just say real quick too, as a best practice, if you can't find someone's email right off the bat, unlike this case, it's okay to contact them via social media. If you handle it carefully and kind of go through methods, either direct message or maybe like a polite mention on Twitter and say like, hey, I have some questions about this article. I'd love to take this offline. Let's connect on this. And that's been very successful. Or even if you Google their name or Google like a bio or a byline, if you Google that, you can usually find a public-facing email that maybe they have published on another site that they've been writing for as well. So definitely don't kind of give up, or don't throw away a source, perfectly good page like this if you can't find that contact info right away.
Kyle,
going back to, sorry, just to jump in really fast, going back to what Kyle was saying too on the follow-up rule, I definitely think you should be threading your emails and just replying back so that it's sitting in there and they can see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's so simple to just say, hey, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up and make sure that this didn't get drowned out in your inbox. I do a fair bit of outreach like that, but I also receive a fair bit of outreach because my name's pretty prominent on Page One Power's website. So when someone wants to get in touch with us about marketing or sales or even link building, I get emails about that all the time. And if I get an email, hey, I'm just following up with that earlier email I sent you, and it's not threaded and I can't find that email, it always gets deleted just right away. So it's super important to thread that email and make sure that they see what you're talking about and that it's not pushy, but it's very just keeping this top of mind.
Yeah.
So, let's say Betsy Russell replies and says, no, sorry, I can't give you that link. Kyle mentioned to give a nice courteous reply. In the long run, what does that do for you, Kyle?
One, it might keep your email from being reported as spam if someone wanted to was really upset about that sort of thing. That obviously doesn't happen, but I think it's just another aspect of remaining human, keeping the human element to that. I mean, SEO's kind of come a long way of being this like negative thing that it was like almost like a four-letter word on the internet, even though it's three letters. But so I think like I've been doing this for a little over 4 years now, which seems like forever, but it's not.
Right.
But so like one of the main thing I found in just like in getting links is just a human element to it, proving like not necessarily proving to people you're human. That sounds almost robotic, but just like how would if you were in their situation, that'd probably be like, okay, one, there's maybe even a small chance to be like, oh, okay, you're not just some soulless person that wants a link. Maybe I will put this up. Mm-hmm. But two, maybe she's written a different article about your hotel. She sees the link more fit, or maybe down the road she writes an article about the hotel and includes a link. Because I have gotten ones that are like, oh, I won't link it in this article because it's archived, or I don't see the link fitting in this article. But I have an article coming up in a couple weeks that I'm writing about something at the hotel or about the hotel or whatever your client may be, and all included in that time. So it's just like one of those things. It's just, it takes 30 seconds and that's the worst thing that could happen is you use 30 seconds of your time and nothing came out.
I think people really overlook the fact that link building it should be a human-oriented task. Too often people think about, oh, it's an activity to get a website to link to my website, and I'm doing it for Google. But the fact of the matter is, links, the reason Google counts links as valuable is that they represent something online. They're an editorial choice, that you're linking to another website, that you are directing your visitors, people who are coming to your website, to another website saying this is of value in some way, whether it's a reference, a citation, whatever it is. I mean, if you're asking for something valuable from another human, you should really go out of your way to be human in response. And so you have to keep in mind that it's not going out and trying to get another website to link to you. You're trying to get another website with a valuable audience and a person who controls that website to think it's worth their visitors' time to link to you. So keeping that human element in it is really important, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I couldn't have said it any better, really.
In the essence of time, let's jump to our other website and kind of shift gears a little bit.
Do you want to look at the outreach real quick, the example?
Oh yeah,
the Davenport one.
So
okay,
Kyle's got a quick sample of what it looks like, what the email or the outreach looks like, and it's very simple and very direct. There's no tricks or anything in this. So if you want to just pull up that.
There's a couple different ones. One's for like weddings, which I'd mentioned earlier, and the others for, just a mention like a news mention like we saw. And as you can see, this is just a very basic outreach. It might seem super basic or too basic on face, but in like just from personal experience, again, I could just say like that it works. Like we kind of live in a day of ages of Facebook and Twitter and interactions on social media, and people don't want to read a novel about why they should link to your company. They want to know why you're talking to them. So, what I do is just be forthright and ask for what I want. My name is Kyle. I work with the client, or in this case, the Davenport Hotel, and I noticed you mentioned our property in this post. And then you can link to the post, and just hit them with the thank you so much for the mention. But I noticed you didn't link to our property, and just ask politely, could you add a link to our homepage or our wedding page or whatever page you want? And then, that you would appreciate, and thank them for their time. It's really that simple. Like, I get a ton of conversions with very similar outreach. And honestly, I feel like the longer my outreach is and the more complicated I make it, the less likely I'm to be ignored if like someone starts reading this and, oh, I don't care, spam or trash or whatever. So
part of research link building is just what you're really trying to do is go out and find opportunities to build links, and you can't manipulate opportunities into being. You have to go and find where genuine opportunities exist, and that's why fresh mentions, or not even fresh mentions, but any mentions whatsoever, and it doesn't have to be specifically the brand. It could be your CEO or even using an image from your website. Whatever the connection is, you're just going out and finding opportunities. And that's when research link building is really successful, is when you truly find an opportunity and you just explain why they should link. You don't have to manipulate anything. You don't have to give an essay. It's just a, hey, I see you've done this here, and I think you should link. And it's that simple, right?
Yeah, no, and yeah, you spelled it out perfectly. It's just all about being just clear and concise with your outreach, and not trying to be shady or anything, because like you said, you can't create something out of nothing. So with like a lot of resource, as we call it, link building, you kind of get what you earn. Like you get what your site earns. So like you need a good, as it says, resource to provide to the audience, so these other sites will see it of value. So yeah, if the resource is good enough, it should speak for itself when they click on a link or check it out. And hopefully you can get someone to do that by just being clear about what you want and
for sure
providing.
Before we move on, Kyle, you have 2 years of building links for hotels experience in that niche, right?
Yeah.
Could you talk to some other methods you used for research link building beyond fresh mention or brand mention to secure links?
A lot more of that is kind of like, I guess, for lack of better words, like old school research link building, which is just taking keywords and combining them with Google modifiers. So like, if you know the city you're in, and like we talked about, the hotel provides weddings, you might go, Spokane, Washington, and then, use the modifier.
Yeah, let's just do a live example.
Yeah, so like, yeah, you'd be like, I might just try Spokane. I don't know if there's any other Spokanes, and wedding vendors. And then you can use, the most common one I use is probably in URL links.
You can also do resources,
yeah,
or
you can do resources.
Resources is really good,
and
yeah.
There's obviously did not. Oh, we're on news still. Okay, fix that. Sorry. Obviously, this takes time, and this is probably why link building is considered like the hard, like the dry, monotonous work of SEO. Is one, a lot of the end result is out of your hands. You can't make anyone put up a link to my client's site. It takes a lot of digging. Like there's 4,000 results here of me looking for preferred wedding vendors, and actually why I see this, it kind of reminds me, when you're doing this sort of outreach, look for the verbiage being used by these sites and within a niche, like vendors, suppliers. Do these pages tend to use the word links or resources more? Are they being linked on a blog, or is it just a links page, like an old-fashioned links page? And then you can kind of check it out, and like, did you see like this one, mobile entertainment? So it's in the wedding niche, and then you can come over here. They just have like venues right here, and the Davenport's already there. So, I mean, you'll find that a lot, especially if your brand is well known, or your hotel or whatever you're working on is well known. But you're in the right ballpark at that point.
I mean, that's a perfect example, because this is what you're talking about in terms of an opportunity existing. It clearly exists because they already linked, but I mean, if this list existed without that mention, like, what better list to be on, what more natural context to be in than a list of wedding vendors in the area where your client is actually a wedding venue, right?
Yeah, or I mean, say you're not one of these venues on the list too, but you belong on there. This is a perfect opportunity for that sort of thing. And this is a good niche because, like, people, like I said earlier, like within a wedding world, like people use the internet a lot to figure out reviews, look at work they've done before, other weddings out there and stuff like that. So it really lends itself to this sort of thing.
It's those millennials, they're getting married. using that technology.
Yeah. And here's preferred. This is a photographer. This looks like, no, there's
weddings, yeah.
Separate listings. Separate
Yeah.
So this
Coeur d'Alene and Spokane are only like 30 minutes apart, I think.
Right.
But yeah,
Sure.
so like, yeah, so just you know, quick Control F for the word Davenport. It's not there, so hit them up.
That's cool.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's preferred, so they might be only working with people that like recommend them. But you know, part of it, like we've talked, is a little bit of PR, a little bit of outreach, and building kind of relationships with people online. Maybe you can become a preferred vendor. Maybe all they want you to do is put a brochure in your hotel lobby.
Yeah.
Or something like that, and they'll drop them off the hotel lobby. I found out too. You don't even need to go get them. Which is virtually impossible sometimes when I'm in Boise, Idaho. So, but yeah, so it's like, you know, it's just quick searches, and I guess with keyword search, I would say keep it. That's another thing. Like maybe a common theme here is just to keep it simple. The more complicated you make some of these search strings, the smaller you're whittling your results. And yeah, you might get something super hyper specific for what you want, but eventually you're going to have to broaden that. And so the simpler it is, like, you know, just like city plus keyword plus modifier for links, resources, suppliers, vendors, those will all kind of direct you to the pages. Obviously, you can't really automate that. You can automate this to an extent, but we personally, like, you know, you can pull a report, which we'll look more into pulling reports here in a little, and when we look at our next example, but you still need to vet these sites, because just because a link's on there, just because like a competitor's linked on there, or just because it says it's vendor links, you want to vet this stuff, because the internet's been around for a while now, and some of these sites are not good, and you don't want your client on there, and you don't want your own company on there, especially with, you know, like through all the updates and stuff like that, and the way that people used to abuse SEO. You don't want to like piggyback on something that's not working out for you.
Well, let's go ahead and move on to our other category. So, pretending that our client is NerdWallet and that they have this handy tool under their mortgages category, and it's a mortgage calculator. And so that's kind of the premise that we're starting from. And so this is the resource or the tool that our client has. How would we go about getting links to this page?
One thing before we jump into that, I just want to say, so I help create content on the Page One Power website, and I have to say that one of the things I've found as I've done that is that so many people are missing so many opportunities. You've got a site like NerdWallet here investing into a mortgage calculator, and I haven't actually gone through and looked at the backlink profile to this specific page to see if they've built links to it or not, but I can tell you that it's not ranking on page one. So what you have here is a classic example of a website who has invested into creating a tool. You know, this didn't happen overnight. They invested resources into building this. And you see so many websites doing this anymore where they invest resources into creating the actual tool or the page or whatever it is, and it does have value to an audience, but then they don't go out and promote it. And a big part of that promotion in online marketing should be links. I mean, links are the source of search traffic. If you build the content, right, if the top two ranking factors are content and links, and you invest time into the content, you need to invest time into the links, or you're not going to get the biggest avenue of traffic online, which is search.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry for that little spiel.
No, and that's like, and exactly what you're talking about is like something I would do. Like, say, let's just say, like, if a company like NerdWallet came to us and I was put on them from day one, like, I would go look for tools on their site that could be linkable, because homepage links don't always offer the most value to a site's, you know, readers. So if you can find a tool that has inherent value, you'll make your job a lot easier. And like you said, especially if you've already invested the money into the tool, why would you not want people to look at your tool and use it, and hopefully they can get you to, you know, whatever makes money. And that's the hope anyways.
Well, and looking at a tool like this that is clearly a very high quality tool, obviously, you know, modern looking and well built, but it's not ranking on the first page. That, you know, we have so many opportunities there to kind of go and backlink the people that are outranking us, and then look at their backlink profiles other people that own other tools, and we can kind of cherry pick the best, most spectacular sites that we want to build relationships with and maybe acquire links from. And so that's kind of like, even though we're kind of we're kind of starting from a losing position of not ranking high, we have so many opportunities to move up and to kind of build those relationships and acquire those links, just because we know that people are outranking us because of content and links, and that when we can see exactly what links they have.
Yeah, and like in this example, they're on the second page, which means they're in essentially striking distance of being on page one, and then hopefully you can move on the way up, because there's many studies on it, but the number drop-offs down each result is like astronomical, and hardly anyone goes to page two, which everyone probably knows just from experience. Like, how often do you dig to page 2, 3, 4 when you're trying to find a resource like this?
Definitely not for a mortgage calculator. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's we go to here and we're like, okay, this is a good tool. I think people can use it. So what I did here is just straight up Google the keyword you want to rank for this tool. Mortgage calculator, whatever tool on your site is, or whatever keyword they want to rank for, and then figure out who's beating you. So, I mean, obviously...
It's interesting that they're just commenting on the SERP here. What I'm seeing is that it basically triggered an in-SERP tool as well, which is kind of interesting. I've Googled this term before because I've worked in this area, and that seems like a more recent phenomenon. I don't know, Corey, have you seen that as well? That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's definitely something that Google's trying actively, really struggling to get better at. And whenever they can provide an answer, they want to. I think that the fact that they've provided a mortgage calculator of their own right within the SERP it'd be interesting to know where they're pulling that from, or if they're creating that themselves. But I mean, that just shows the value of the tool. Clearly, this is a real need that people have, that Google felt they had to answer that themselves. So even if you rank 1, I mean, if Google has an answer right in the SERP, it might not be the best example ever, because maybe ranking number 1 isn't going to achieve the results you want. But at the end of the day, this is what we're trying to demonstrate, is that you need to find something that you've invested into, that you think is valuable, that answers a need to your audience, and you need to be there, and you need to be relevant, and you need to be ranking high for that. I mean,
because you're still in the conversation. If you're not ranking, because Google's ranking 0 for this, basically it is ranking 0, and but if you're in the top 5, if you're in that top 5 kind of leaders of the pack, then that means you're in that conversation, you're in people's front of mind, and it's basically like a billboard. I mean, that SERP becomes almost like a billboard for your brand too. If you're showing up every time you Google it, even if you don't necessarily click on the link, but to go to your site, but you're getting people's eyes on your brand, and that's not nothing.
Yeah, and I mean, with a tool like this, someone might plug it into Google, but then go down to the next 1 or 2 results to see what they're pulling number-wise versus what Google's tool pulls, just because.
I noticed NerdWallet too has a few features that Google's definitely does not. You got HOA fees in there, and it looks like you could input your area code, your budget, and so you probably get recommendations to an extent too. So there's definite value here.
Yeah, there's a lot more like down payment, the interest you're looking for, the years you're looking for, things like that.
And I think in your conversations with people trying to get links back to that content, I think mentioning those add-ons like that, I think is powerful.
Absolutely. It's like your unique selling point, right? When you go out, you have to list what makes your product different, what makes your product better, and that's definitely something that you need to call out in your email and your outreach.
So after you do this initial search and you're seeing competitors, you see where they fall, what's your next step?
My personal next step would be like, okay, let's, for all intents and purpose, say like our on-site is the same. Like we're using the same keywords on site, we're optimized. So they have to be beating us somewhere. So I would take this first site, mortgagecalculator.com, or .org, sorry, and open up one of those tools we talked about, which will show you the backlink of the site you plug in. Personally, I use Majestic a lot. There's OpenSite, Ahrefs, I believe, and probably a ton more. I believe SEMrush now has a backlink tool too.
Yeah, and cognitive SEO, I believe, as well. It really comes down to your personal preferences. We use Majestic. We have for a long time. They have a really strong data backend, so they have one of the biggest indexes of backlink explorers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they have a lot of modifiers too. Like right here, you can see there's fresh index, historic index. Well, fresh index is, I believe, the most recent 90 days. Yeah. Historic goes back to whenever all the data they have on there. I usually start with fresh, pull historic next, just as we were talking about with mentions. The newer a link's been found, the more likely that person's going to probably be actively adding links to their website. So yeah, like we're already logged in and pulled this up. If you've never seen this before, it looks overwhelming, but it's just metrics. It's not anything, but for all intents and purposes, we're going to go to backlinks because that's where the money's at.
Wait, before you do that, could you flip back over to summary really fast? Look at all of those links.
Yeah,
They have 4,600 referring domains. In the last 5 years, they have 26,000. No wonder they rank #1.
Well,
that's a lot of links.
If we switch it to the root domain, I think it's going to go up. There we go.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So what I would do next is come here to backlinks. One thing that's handy, and another reason I like Majestic, is I can hide the deleted backlinks.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And it'll just get rid of some stuff that might, not be there anymore, or maybe it is, or
you're still on the root too, so that you're on the whole domain as opposed to the URL.
Yeah, and I'll actually kind of take you through what I actually did here. What I found out when I did the root, I thought, oh, it's just mortgagecalculator.org. This site couldn't possibly be about anything besides mortgage calculations. I was wrong. So I exported the data, which I actually have up here. Let's just export it. I just prefer to use CSV. It talks to all sorts of things, so you're usually good.
It's usually a smaller file too.
File,
which is nice.
Yeah. And you'll end up with this probably very intimidating sheet. For all intents and purpose, when I do this, there's plenty of good data in here. I just don't need it for what I'm going to do right now.
There we go.
And so, kind of just get this how I like it visually. I come over here, freeze the top row just because I like that. Add filters to here. Oops, clicked in the box, sorry. I'm going to add this filter here. Why I add this filter? Because I can now come here and just type link into this, and this will show me every links page they're on, or at least anything that mentions link that they're on. So as you can see, there's still 366 records here. Now, some people like to mass import these into whatever tool they're using. I personally vet everything before I go. So I'm going to just actually do this real quick. So it's not.
And what just to kind of follow along too, is that the column that he filtered, he's looking at the URL, the source URL column, and so it's just filtering any reference to the word link is going to show up in that search. That filter you can also use the word resource or even like favorites or list are typical ones.
Tools,
Tools. So
like
then basically this list kind of becomes, in a way, your outreach list, and it kind of the beginnings of it once we vet them.
Yeah, and so as I said, with this one, it wasn't just all about mortgage calculators. As you can see, there's like keeping your home through debilitating disease, fire safety. This is just content they're created. They've done a good job of creating content that people want to link to. Kind of just what we spoke to a little earlier. But yeah, so like this schools. just because the anchor text is just straight up mortgage calculator.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably a good place to start. So just kind of look at it. Let's just take a look at this page just so everyone can see it. Okay, so here's a list of just helpful links, as it says. So what I'd want to know is what is Stringham Schools? Is this relevant to my tool, or is this, unfortunately, like we said, a lot of spam in the world?
Yeah, and they're clearly linking out to good resources if you just quickly scan that list. I mean, it's very authoritative looking.
Yeah, so and you come here and it's a school for real estate education. So this seems like a great place. You can see because there's mortgage calculator right there. There's only one, so there's a small chance they'll say hey, we found the calculator we wanted. But they might want to provide a more robust thing. It never hurts to ask. You're never going to know.
Well, and that's where and that's where your USP comes in, right? When you're saying, oh, well, that's a pretty helpful tool, but we do this differently, and we really think it adds a lot of value. I mean, you're not trying to rob anyone of a link, but maybe they decide we do only want to list one tool, and now they want to list yours.
Yeah, they definitely might want to list both too, and I think it's to the audience's benefit if if they're getting the best tool, and so maybe that just happens to be the client that we're working for. They have a better tool, so it's kind of a benefit all around. And then then if my link got taken off this page, then okay, then maybe I need to work on my calculator and put a little bit more of R&D in that and give it another shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I mean, same thing with this would be once you found this, you could, like we said, create a list, outreach it down the future, outreach it right now, and I would kind of say do the same thing we did with the other one. Just introduce yourself, who you're working with, and tell them why you think the NerdWallet Mortgage Calculator would be good for their site or their viewers or their readers or however you would like to word it. But yeah, just keeping it simple again.
And one kind of best practice is something that I found can be useful too is that once you find a really fantastic page like this that's relevant, it's a site that's a realtor school, and then we have a mortgage calculator tool, and you find this links list page, I like to backlink this exact page as well and see who is actually pointing to this page, and that can usually lead to some great relationships and maybe some other linking opportunities as well. So you by the end of the day as a link builder, you'll be working from a lot of backlink lists.
And then another practice you can do when you see a list like this is try to see if any of these links are broken or if 404ing, whatever verbiage you want to use. But if they have, no webmaster wants links that go nowhere on their website. So if you can point out to them that's just more added value, and then you can kind of be like, hey, a couple broken links here. There are these 3 links. I was wondering if you'd be willing to replace one of them with our link. Here it is.
Yeah. That's a great idea, and it's nice when you can come into a conversation cold. You're introducing yourself to a perfect stranger with cold outreach, and right away you're offering assistance and giving them, something that's helpful and valuable to their site before, you get to the asking. And sometimes there's that just opportunities to give service, and even if you don't get the link back, you still are in connection. There's a lot of other links on there that might be handy for another project later down the road.
Yeah.
And you can even take it a step further, is backlink that broken link, see who else is linking to it, and go after those sites with the same sort of mentality or strategy.
Yeah.
Well, this specific example is very detailed, very unique. If, the mortgage calculator is an asset on our hypothetical client's website. Could you give the audience some other examples of assets to look for? In the Search Engine Journal webinar earlier today, they were talking about an infographic that measured the speed of all the different sci-fi movie spaceships. And unique, different, and it stood out, and it got a lot of circulation. But what are some other examples of assets that link builders might be able to use to go out and link back to?
I'd say look for anything that could be a tool. I know that's kind of a broad term, but like anything that might encourage like a user to use it. I know that sounds kind of like a dumb way to phrase that, I guess, but if there's a purpose for a user to go there and use it, they're more likely to list it because they'll be like, oh, our viewers or readers or users will like this, so we're going to list it, whether it's something interactive like, migration maps. I'm totally blanking on stuff right now, but just anything that's kind of like tool-oriented, or like infographics is another good one. People like easy-to-digest media, and that's what it is. It's pictures and it's done real slick, and it provides fun information. It doesn't necessarily even have to be like that. That one obviously is like a fun pop culture information. But you could probably do it with like, the rising cost of mortgages through the years or something like that.
I like to take a slightly different tack too. Is instead of necessarily tools or kind of more interactive, I also like to look for things that my clients might have that are that I call like certifications. So meaning like if you're a coffee shop and you sell like organically fair trade, organically certified fair trade coffee, or if you're some sort of food, if you're a grocer or a restaurant and you're organic or fair trade or GMO free, or any of those certifications can get you on lots of lists of like area restaurants that are gluten free or all those sorts of things. So I look for certifications. And also, anything that you can do that's like green or energy saving, you can also get listed on places that are like, hey, what are your local green businesses, or what are your local businesses that are trying to take steps to reduce the carbon footprint? So those are things I always look for.
FAQs can be helpful too.
Oh yeah.
Because you have a client and they have a thing kind of about what they do, or maybe about something within what they do that provides, it's very informational in nature. That's always usually good. Like if someone wanted to learn about like home remodeling, but they wanted to learn more about like a certain type of material, like, oh, I want to use granite or something like that. Maybe you have an FAQ on why granite's better, why it lasts longer, It doesn't get cut, it doesn't get burnt. Stuff like that can be useful.
I think what it really comes down to is value. What you're looking for on the site, regardless of what it is, it's value to an audience. And then all you're doing is you're going out and finding where that audience lives online and promoting it to those websites where that audience lives, and say, hey, I recognize that you have this audience, and that I think that you have a page here that speaks to whatever my topic is or whatever my value add is, and I have this page that is valuable for this audience. And it sounds really high level when you say it like that, but that's really the core of what we're doing here. Is we're looking for a page on your website that has value to a specific audience, that adds value to the community, and then we're just going out and finding sites where those community people live and where other links or other pieces of value similar to yours live, and then we just try and get a link there as well.
Yeah.
We're running out of time here, coming up at the top of the hour. I want to ask the audience if they feel comfortable submitting their website. We could take a quick look at and just browse through, identify assets that we could go out and build links to. Use the question tab on your control panel to submit that. Or if you have a specific question for Kyle, Corey, or Colin, submit that using the question tab there. And we will be able to answer that. Also, you can continue this conversation out on Twitter using the hashtag P1PWebinar. So I'm just going to give you a moment to submit with the interest of time. Risky, we could try that. Maybe that one there. Which one? Right here. Yeah, let's try that one. Cool. All right, so we got a submission here from one of our audience members. We'll take a look at the website real quick and just give one final example. Yeah, rehabcenter.net.
mess up typing. Put me on the spot. I'll mess it up. Okay. Yeah.
So thank you to Sarah for submitting that.
So it looks like Sarah also submitted kind of a specific page, I believe, or
yeah, that
there.
page. Honestly, kind of like, I mean,
Yeah.
right, the first thing I noticed here is resources right
Yep.
here.
Good word for this topic.
Pop out. You know, you have the blog, which, you know, one of the word we kept repeating over and over is like value. Blogs can provide value just because of it. They're being informational in nature and stuff like that. And then, you know.
It looks like it's a, can you get off that menu for a second just so I can see?
Yeah.
It looks like it's find the right treatment, so it's treatment centers. So what you could do there too is go to places like Alcohol Anonymous, right? And go to centers like that, groups like that, because there's a strong community behind a lot of recovery. And if you're just providing a resource, you know, find the right treatment for yourself or find treatment near you, a lot of those groups would be more than happy to direct people in that direction. That's one opportunity.
Yeah. And yeah, exactly. I mean, just from like looking at this on the first page, a lot of like well-worded things like let our experts help you find the proper treatment for you. So that kind of takes the pressure off, you know, like if you were trying to sell this to a site, you could pitch it as like someone might feel overwhelmed by the idea of going to rehab or have no idea where to start. And so that's kind of like your like sell right there. But then, you know, like we said, resources like infographics talked about, you know, a lot of this I would want to dig into a little bit more, but I mean, this would be the sort of stuff I'd start looking for and then being, you know, trying to figure out like what direction we'd want to start in.
Yeah, you could do a lot, like just seeing the 12 steps here. I know that there's a lot of information, kind of 12-step friendly rehab centers and places that, you know, because it's a specific niche within the whole industry. So you could take it there or take it to a specific type of addiction, whether it's like opioids or alcohol or whatnot. So, you know, within those niches, you can find those audiences and to match it with this content.
Now, something like this, this is the specific page that Sarah submitted regarding, you know, preventing students from experimenting with drugs and alcohol. You know, I'm thinking of if you get links from actual EDU sites,
right,
pretty valuable.
Kind of sounds like this could belong on some sort of school resource.
Yeah.
You know, be it high school, middle school, college. We might have to kind of test the waters and kind of see who would be more open to maybe linking to this or posting this on their site. But I think it's worth pursuing.
Yeah, they like probably obviously more geared towards junior high and high school. Sometimes those sites are a little rough around the edges just because they're not as well funded as, say, a college. The other thing comes to my mind is parenting blogs. Parents love to blog. So you might be able to find one who might mention you in an article about something similar and link to this, or maybe they'd want you to maybe just have a links page about, like, you know, good parenting advice when it comes to this sort of thing.
So definitely do.
Also,
like parents
think about communities too that have a shared audience with you. So you've got communities like DARE, right, and MAD, Mothers Against Drunk Driving.
Great.
There's so many different communities that have the same message, and it looks like there's, you know, plenty of resources on this site that truly add value to the community. And so it's just a matter of going out and finding those relevant communities and partners and finding an opportunity for a link and reaching out and trying to build that human connection.
Well,
I mean, there's almost so much, it's hard to even begin on that site. You know, there's a lot of opportunities.
Yeah, lots of opportunities there. Sarah, thank you again for submitting that. Real quick, we're going to, for those of us that are still, or for those of you that are still with us, just a quick poll. Want to get your ideas if you're interested in any of our other services. We do offer a link building training program that is directly customized for your business and for your industry, and that is an alternative if you're not able to afford our full package of link building services. We also just started doing some very involved technical SEO audits of your website, so it's very helpful if you're needing to get the website straightened up before you begin link building. That's always a good idea. So I'll leave that open just for a few more seconds, and then we will close out. But once again, thank you for everybody joining us today. Next week, we're going to be hosting John Hinshaw from Raven Tools. He's going to be talking to us about on-page SEO, giving us a lot of tips and tricks for that. Very helpful. I've heard him speak before, hosted him in June on Digital Olympus, and that presentation was incredible. So join us next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern for that. Any other questions? Maybe we can answer one more before we leave. Let's see. I'll close this poll. And let's take a look here. So Erica, she asked, a consultant said that building anything more than 2 links to a particular page per month might be flagged as spammy link building techniques. She wants to know our thoughts. She also said, not to use anchor text links. Thank you, Erica, for submitting that.
I'll jump on that really quickly. I would say any more than 2 is definitely not spammy. It depends on your industry, your niche, and what your competitors are doing, and honestly what the value your page serves. But if you look at, there's plenty of examples of interesting pieces of content or pages that get hundreds of links overnight, and Google understands those to be valuable pages that got traction within the community. And so I would say it really depends on how you're building those links, and as you mentioned, what kind of anchor text you're using. It should always be natural. It should be editorial. There's no reason you can't suggest the kind of what the page is about. The keywords should be in there already, so you don't have to do anything manipulative to try and get good keyword anchor text links. Should happen fairly naturally anyways. But I wouldn't say more than 2 is spammy. I mean, 2 is pretty minimal in my opinion.
Yeah.
Even in a slow industry, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And I would say too, if those are natural links and they make sense, Google's never gonna penalize you for that. Like, you built 100 links to the same page, but they were all where they belonged and in their proper relevance and stuff like that. I highly doubt they would drop any sort of like penalty on you for anything like that. But
the truth is, those manual penalties have to be handed out by an expert at Google. And as long as those links are defensible, as long as you're proud of the links that you've built and you say these are adding value to the web and they make sense for users, and it was an editorial ask from another website and they chose to grant me this link, as long as those links are defensible, you should never be concerned about how many links you're building. If anything, that's something to celebrate. I mean, you're not going to try and go out and spam and build a bunch of bad links. You're trying to build links that make sense, right?
Especially manually editorial links like this in this process. You really shouldn't. You should go out and do so without worry. Sort of any sort of penalty or flag or scary business like that. But yeah, exactly. Make it defensible and make it links that you're proud of and to people that are within your company's wheelhouse, and you shouldn't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, we often talk about, the kind of links we want to build are the links that we're proud to show to our clients, and as long as we're doing that, we never have to worry about, whether Google finds our work or not. That's links that we're proud of.
Well, Corey, thank you for joining us today, and to our audience, we appreciate your time and sitting with us. You can see a recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel tomorrow. It'll be also on our webinars page tomorrow. And like I said before, join us again next Wednesday with John Hinshaw from Raven Tools for some on-page SEO. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. It was a blast.